and welcome to the webinar today. We are excited to have you here as part of our PathLock Innovation Series. This is our last session for today, but we have many sessions coming up tomorrow and Wednesday. Our session right now is Your SAP Systems Are Under Attack. Learn how to detect and defend cyber attacks. Our presenter today is Anand Koti, and he is our Director of Solution Engineering here at PathLock, and he will introduce himself in just a moment.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. This is Anand Koti. I'm the Director of Solution Engineering at PathLock. I've been with the company a little over 2 years, and I've been in the security industry like an SME a little over 15 years. So a lot of experience here. So today's session is all about, SAP systems under attack and, how do you detect and defend. Now, before I jump in and give you more details around it, first I would like to address a couple of things, right? Let's set the stage for it. The first thing that we need to understand is SAP's applications are under attack. Why do you think SAP application under attack? Now, everyone understands that SAP is a business critical or mission critical application. What that means is that if for some reason your SAP application is down, that means your business is at a halt, and you don't want that to happen. And there are a lot of stats around it, like as you could see on the right hand side, 77% of the global transactions run under SAP. So it's a good reason why you want to keep that up and running. And access governance, access controls is all great. That's the front door, right? But if you don't lock your back doors on your windows, someone would get into your home, right? Invade your home. Once they get in, they will not go into your kitchen and start cooking something, right? They would just go directly to a safe where your crown jewels are start attacking those applications. So start attacking taking your crown jewels. So it's important to make sure you protect the data. And it's not just you being aware of it. You should also understand the threat actors are also aware that SAP is critical, and that's where everything is, right? All your business processes are running. So they're also trying to attack or target your SAP applications. Now, having said that, it's just not me saying it, I'm not just PathLock saying it. SAP is also trying to educate all their customer base. They have about a little over 400,000 customer base, and they're constantly trying to educate, saying that attacks are happening against SAP. Please make sure your patches are up to date. Make sure your the nuts and bolts of the system are configured right and whatnot. And this is a timeline that kind of shows you that attacks are against SAP are happening, and there are multiple cert alerts that are issued around SAP as well. So if you ever wonder, like is it just me, or is the US government, the governments across the world are talking about these attacks? You can just Google it and you will find it. Now we all set a stage that SAP is critical. Attacks against SAP are happening. Now, what I want to do is that I want to dive into a couple of things that PathLock can help you with. Now, PathLock as a company can offer a lot around SAP applications, but one thing that we can do is we can do system assessment, custom code assessment, transport assessment, threat detection, and we can also send data to your SIM tools and so that your SOC team can be aware of what's going on in your business critical application, which is SAP. So we can offer a lot of solution around it. I'm going to dive into these areas, but one of the areas that I'm going to dive a little more deep into and also show you a demo is around the threat detection and response. Now, when we talk about system assessment, we can provide at PathLock 4,000 assessment scans. Now, no one in the market can provide so many scan signatures, but we are the only company out there who can do 4,000 assessment scans. What that means is that irrespective of what your profile looks like, you can come into PathLock platform and start running assessments against your SAP applications. We provide you today out of the box 4,000 assessment scans, and we constantly keep updating these assessment scans. That means you don't need to build the signatures. We build it for you. We have over 250 customers, and all these customers are using this assessment scans today. So you are at par with the market. At any point in time, you can come in and run the assessment scans and see what your security posture looks like. We have over 4,000 assessment scans to help you not only just give you what your security posture looks like, but we also give you the remediation, the business impact, and everything around it, so that you can take care of not just finding the vulnerabilities, the understanding the priority around it, how to take care of patching that particular vulnerability, and also the business impact. If for some reason business says, "Oh, don't patch this thing right now because there's an end of quarter or whatnot," right? So they have their own reasons, but you should have your own reasons of why you should take care of your business, right? So that's where the vulnerability management comes into play. And then you have custom code. You know, I did a lot of assessment scans in my career, and one of the things that what I realized is that your developers can also push vulnerabilities into production systems. And a lot of times, what happens is the personas of people using SAP is like, you have a security administrator doesn't really understand the code, or your basis administrator doesn't really understand the code. Your functional consultant, absolutely not. Now, who really understands the code is the developer who's pushing things into production, but it's your job and it's your duty to make sure you trust your developers are doing the right thing, but you should also verify. Now, that's where our custom code assessment scans can come into play. We have 130 patterns that we can provide, and within these patterns, you can try to see, how if someone is pushing something into your production system, making sure you're doing assessment scans. We can, as a developer, they can do their own assessment scan intentionally, or they could have malicious intent of putting a bad code. As a manager, you can catch it, or it's unintentional. It's something that they have put in where they have missed an authority check, right? Missing an authority check is a huge thing, but you know what? Sometimes developers do that, right? Depending on the skill set, where they are, they might be doing something like that. But they can do their own assessments as well. So they can do their own assessment before they move to production system. And as a manager, you can do an assessment across your developers. These developers could be contractors who come in and go out, right? So you might want to verify what they are pushing into production system. So we can do custom codes assessment scans. It's very critical. We can do transport assessment scans. Transport assessment scans, a lot of times I spoke to people who have 20, 30 years of experience. When I asked them, when you move transports, what is that? Do you really dig in and see what's inside the transport? And guess what? The answer was, they do transport management, and they kind of, they interchangeably say, what, transport scanning is not the same as transport management. But transport management is like, you have one transport and there is a dependency of a transport, and you moving things into production system, the dependency is what matters. And for them, okay, transport A should go first and transport B should go next. That's all. That's what their focus is. No one ever came back to me and said, what, I open the transport, I see what is the auth objects, and I open up all the packages under it and whatnot. No one does that. This is where automatic transport assessment checks are important. That means as and when the basis person or the security guy releases the transport to production system, we can automatically check those transports to see if there's any security vulnerabilities embedded in the transport. It's like, if you're in SAP world, transport is a truck. We pretty much scan the truck, rip open the truck before we move it to production. If we do find something, we give you reports around it. We provide you all the comprehensive details around it to make sure you understand what the risks are for moving this transport to production. So far we talked about vulnerability assessment, we talked about custom code, we talked about transport assessment. These are three different areas of the three different areas that we can help with. Now we do have what you call as threat detection and response. Now, threat detection is we have over 1,500 signatures that we can provide that can constantly monitor. It's like a continuous control monitoring. It's like monitoring because guess what? I recently talked to a prospect and they said, what, this is a vulnerability. Why are you not taking care of it? And said, there are 100 different reasons he provided why he cannot take care of it right now. This is where threat detection comes into play. And when they deploy threat detection, if you don't patch or if you don't take care of the configuration issue that you have in your production system, we can constantly monitor so that your no threat actors are taking advantage of that particular vulnerability or exploiting that one particular vulnerability. Now, that is detection. We do have a response as well. The response comes into the capability of response that we have is tied back to our ABAC capability. Now, if you're not familiar with ABAC, I'm going to give you a brief intro on it. RBAC is role-based security, right? This is traditionally how any application works, not just SAP, any application works. Role-based security is a traditional way of how securing your applications, RBAC. Now, RBAC, if you look at the history of it, it's been there for the last 40 years, 4 decades and more. Now, a lot of things changed around RBAC, the compliance regulation, the threat vectors and whatnot, right? So all the things have changed around RBAC, but RBAC is the same. So this is where ABAC is the new methodology that NIST has been promoting for the last couple of years, but the adoption has been slow. But guess what? The ABAC is the path forward, where ABAC stands for attribute-based access control. What that means is that during the time of access, we can evaluate the user runtime dynamically and make sure if the user trying to access that particular data, does he have the right set of attributes? There are 3 types of attributes ABAC evaluates. One is the subject attributes, in this case, user. Let's take Anand. Anand has a location. He works from San Francisco, and he has a job title. He's a director, right? And he has a IP and is a terminal that he accesses the data from. That's usually what Anand does with SAP application. But we evaluate and make sure these attributes are intact to make sure the subject is ticked off. This is real time, right? Then you have object. Every object within SAP has its own set of attributes. This is where we evaluate and make sure if the object has some policy driven attached to it, we will evaluate that as well. That means, let's give you an example. Material has a material type. Then the type of material is an attribute that we evaluate as well. And the environment attributes, the IP, and the terminal that we talked about, and all that, the location we talked about is all the attributes are tied to the environment. So what we do is, for your response, we can put a blanket policy to evaluate and make sure if for some reason someone has compromised on your credentials, right? Or someone is trying to do malicious activity in your SAP application, we are evaluating the users who are creating these credentials in your system and trying to access the data. We're evaluating them and making sure if there is an anomaly through the ABAC policy. We're detecting it, and through your threat detection, we're detecting it, and with ABAC policy, we're responding by blocking the user real time. No one in the market can provide this capability. Pathlog is the only company that can provide this capability, and then that's one of our unique differentiator as well. Now, what I would try to do next is that I'm going to give you a demo of an actor who be a user, and how it goes, how the flow goes, where we detect the issue, and also we'll show you how you can respond to it. A small story around it. So here is a demo actor. He's a security administrator, right? What does a security administrator have? Generally, this security administrator, Danny has SAP All, and then what SAP All means, that he can do anything he wants. SAP All and you are like one of those things. Very few users have it, and obviously Danny, being an administrator, he has all this profiles. Now, Danny as an administrator does his job. He can do anything he wants. In this case, Danny goes and then goes into a transaction called PA20. It doesn't matter what transaction he goes into, because if he has an SAP All, he can go to any transaction he wishes to go into, right? Now, having said that, because Danny has all these privileged access, and his profile, when a threat actor compromises your firewalls and get inside your system, he's not going to go into the SAP application and start attacking right away. That's not how what we noticed in my research for the last 10, 15 years. What I noticed is that, and there's a lot of research out there, is that when a threat actor compromises your firewalls and gets inside your perimeter, what they do is that they sit in your perimeter for at least 90 days, 60 to 90 days at an average, to understand what's going on before they plan out an attack. Once they're inside, they sit there for 60 to 90 days before they plan their attack. They know who's doing what. They're trying to, what do you call, lay a pattern, right? In this case, in my example, Danny is the targeted, has been targeted by this threat actor. He clearly knows, he has all the credentials. He's going into the system, and he's the right target for him. Now, Danny goes on a vacation. Obviously, here is a threat actor who figured out what he needs to figure out, and he sent out an email saying that, you have been left, you've been out for 3 days. Click on this link, and you need to update your password. Now, Danny did go out for 3 days because that's exactly what a threat actor would do, because he's inside the perimeter. He understands that this guy is out for vacation for a few days. Now, he laid out his path. Now, Danny gets an email. He doesn't think twice, clicks on the link, opens up a link with an updated password that he can put in, or he can, and once he logs in with his credentials, like everything here looks like right. Here is copyright information here from SAP and logo, whatnot. Then he thinks everything is good to go, and he puts in the password. Guess what? And no one would send this message, but just for the purpose of demo, I'm just saying, gotcha. Here, Danny's credential has been compromised. Now, as soon as Danny's credential has been compromised, that's when the threat actor would not waste any more time. He would not wait. He already started executing. Once they start executing it, they would not wait. This is when the ABAC policy comes into play, right? Obviously, ABAC, I just talked about it. It's about dynamic evaluation of access. There's a policy-driven approach. This has its own advantages, and we can go into depth if you guys are interested. We can go into the depth of it. But ABAC is all about evaluating who, what, when, and how. It's all dynamic evaluation of all these aspects of it at the time of access. Now, this new user, this threat actor, what he did was he took a terminal, he took an IP. Obviously, he has to access this data from somewhere, right? He has a laptop and an IP. He logs into the platform. This is not usually where Danny logs in from, right? So we have a policy that drives this one that says, only this IP range is a whitelist. Anything outside that, guess what? The 12 is not an IP that been recognized by the system. So this is how the policy can be written. Anything within this range is all okay. Anything with these terminals are all okay. It's a blanket policy, right? No, but as a threat actor, he wouldn't think about it because this ABAC policy is a little over his head, right? Because not a whole lot of companies have adapted to it, and not a lot of people understand how ABAC policy really understands. So this is where the ABAC policy comes into play. And guess what? Danny, my friend, who is a threat actor, he already knows the credentials. Obviously, he's logging into the platform. All great. He could log into the platform. Now he goes to the same PA20 transaction that has been accessed by our security administrator. And guess what? With ABAC policy, there are a lot of things that you can do. You can mask the fields. In this case, I have masked the first name and SSN. I can mask anything that you want me to mask. Or if something like this happens, you want to restrict him at the transaction level, we can also do that as well. So we can do at the transaction level, we can do at the field level, we can do at the reporting level. Now, because this threat actor has been denied to see the employee SSN, you know what? In SAP, there are 100 different ways that you can access this particular data. And he tries to go to the material transaction, the same thing. Even within the F4 help, this is the F4 help. You can see that the certain materials have been masked because of the material type policy. So he tries to go into the materials, he gets denied, he gets the deny in the PA20 transaction. Now he says, you know what, SAP has 100 different ways to get to the data, and he figures out that SC16 is the one other way that he can go into. It's the data browsing table. With the data, he's going to directly hitting the tables. EKKO is one of the critical tables for materials. So he goes in and tries to say, okay, I can see all this data, let me download the data. Again, the policy can be restricted at the transaction level, at the field level, at the F4HAL level. Even if you're trying to go to data browsing tables, we can restrict at the table level. But in this case, I want to give you a flavor of different transactions. Now, what he did was he went into this transaction SC16, and then he put an EKKO table. He gets all the data, but when he tries to download the data, he's saying, you know what, download of sensitive data is restricted. Now, with SAP All, SAP New, technically then they could have done everything, but the ABAC policy is making the difference. What ABAC policy is defining and say who, what, and when and how is being evaluated, and is restricting the user to the user, the threat actor, from downloading the data or viewing the data. So that's how we can help you with threat detection and the response. And the response part is a clear differentiator for us at Pathlock. Apart from the things that we talked about in the vulnerability management, the 4,000 assessment scans, the custom code scanning, the threat transport scanning, we have threat detection and response. And what we just showed you is like how the ABAC policy comes into life with the response piece. Now, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, and we are more than happy to address it. With that, I just wanted to hand over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Anand. Yes, if you do have any questions, please add them now into the questions box. We had a question that came through that says, do you offer any integration to Microsoft Sentinel SIEM tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to let you know, our partnership with Microsoft, Microsoft is our customer. Microsoft is our technology partner as well. And we can definitely send it to any SIEM tool, and Sentinel is one of them as well.
Perfect. Okay, can you go to the next slide?
Okay, perfect. Here we go.
All right. And if you do have any more questions, please just send them to us at info@pathlock.com, and we would be happy to answer any of those. With that, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Thank you, Anand, for your presentation, and thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at future events.